Alrighty, guys, welcome back to the Identity Project. Today, I have one of my friends, Mr. Tommy Clark, on the podcast today. He just started back up at school 2 weeks ago, and he was just telling me about how much he's enjoying his semester thus far. Isn't that right, buddy?
I gotta love taking art history when you're a nutrition and dietetics major. It's completely super relevant to what I'm gonna be studying, but it is what it is.
Hey, we all had to do it, I guess, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Well, dude, so let's take it back like we do with all the guests on the show, and I want to kind of dive into your story. We just mentioned now that obviously you're pursuing a degree in nutrition and dietetics, but I want to kind of learn more about what got you to this point. So let's take it all the way back. You're not that young, so taking it back isn't that hard. But let's go back into like elementary school days. Just kind of tell me your story, and we'll go from there.
Let's do it. So yeah, when I was growing up, I was back in elementary school and like going into middle school, I was the chubby kid. So I was pretty overweight. I mean, didn't really have the best eating habits. Like Chips Ahoy and milk was like a daily like ritual. Like when I got home from school, like you can't really blame me. That shit was good, but it definitely wasn't I didn't have the best eating habits. And eventually I just got tired of it and got made fun of and messed with by my friends and stuff like that. So eventually it just got to a point where like I had to make a change. And around that time, my mom was actually doing, those like insanity workouts, like the ones in like you do in the
Yeah.
living room on the TV. Like my mom was doing those. So I just decided, I was like, oh, you know what? I'll do it. And like, yeah, that was what like got me started. Um, at that point, I still had no idea like good nutrition or anything like that. I just didn't have any like knowledge of like nutrition at that point, but at least I was moving. And that's what got me started. And then from there, I started playing basketball, and that's what really like got me into shape. Obviously, running up and down the court. And like I like to think I started eating a little bit better. Like I said, I still didn't have like the best knowledge around it, but like I started eating obviously less Chips Ahoy, less like other like processed stuff like that, and just more like what people would consider like quote unquote like healthy foods. But I really didn't have much of a knowledge base of nutrition from that point all the way through high school. Like through high school, it was pretty much just because I was playing basketball, expending a ton of calories per day, running up and down the court. So that's pretty much what kept me in shape. And then when I got to college, that's when nutrition kind of came into the picture, because growing up, like when I started playing basketball, like I wasn't the most genetically gifted. I was not the fastest, not the strongest, definitely could not jump the highest. So once I got to college, like that really started to show. And I was looking for anything that I could to get an edge, because up until that point, I thought I had been doing everything. I was that guy who was in the gym, like multiple times per day, like skills training, weightlifting, whatever, like watching YouTube videos, film, like just whatever I could to get better. And like when I got to college, I was like, why isn't this working anymore? Like I'm doing everything I'm supposed to be doing. Like, why am I not able to keep up with my teammates? And then that's where nutrition kind of came into the picture. Funnily enough, though, like the first thing I did with my nutrition was probably the worst thing I could have done as a competitive basketball player. So I went paleo during the middle of my basketball season, which for those of you that don't know who are listening, paleo, like it's a pretty low carb approach, really just eating like how the cavemen would have eaten. And when I read about it in like books and blogs and stuff, people just made it sound like this amazing diet. It was like the cure to all problems. And I was like, oh, this sounds cool. Let me do that. Little did I know I actually needed carbs to perform on the basketball court. So yeah, I actually ended up losing 21 pounds in like a month and a half. And my
Damn.
performance it was bad. I didn't realize how like drastic it was until I look back now. But my performance just went through the floor, like even like worse than it was before. And I was just like, what is going on? And then that's where I kind of started to look a little bit deeper into things and realize, oh, maybe I should try like adding in some like starches and like actually tracking what I ate. Cause up until that point, like I was doing paleo, but I wasn't aware of like how much I was eating, which is another crucial part of the equation. So then I started just looking deeper and deeper and learning more and more. And then I eventually came across our guy, Jason Phillips, and started looking into more his stuff. And that's what kind of got me on the road of like tracking what I ate and like actually like having a good knowledge base on like what I needed to perform. And then from there, I just started seeing improvements actually. And then I just got so interested in it that I started like helping out my friends and stuff like that. And then I ultimately got certified by PN, started coaching clients. And then in the fall of this past year, I did NCI. And actually, this is like the most ironic part of the whole story is that I ended up walking away from basketball to pursue my nutrition coaching business and really focus on that, which is kind of funny because I got into nutrition to get better as a basketball player, but I ended up just falling so in love with the nutrition side of things that like I just wanted to focus on that. So that pretty much, oh, and also I should mention that I'm like transferring schools to pursue the major in dietetics. So just like it caught the nutrition thing kind of caused like a whole cascade in my life. Like if you would have asked me that I'd be like where I'm at now 6 months ago, I probably would have looked at you like you were crazy. But yeah, and now we're here transferring schools, focusing on the business and just trying to help people as best I can.
Wow. That's awesome, man. I think that's really interesting that you decided. I mean, it reminds me of me. Like I got into the field and started doing like personal training at like 18 years old. So, I mean, how old are you again? Remind me.
I'm 19.
19. Yeah. So there you go. And it sounds like you're like 1 year ahead. Did you take some like classes in high school or something? Like college credits or? Actually, I think I was just old. I was 18 when I was a senior in high school. So maybe that's what it was.
Okay. I think I started a little bit early.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, damn, you're a sophomore dude, at 19.
Yeah. No, I'm a young sophomore.
But it's interesting, that you like decided. I mean, so did you have like a basketball scholarship? Is that right?
So it was, I played at a D3 school, so there wasn't like athletic scholarships. I was getting a scholarship for like academics, but as far as basketball was concerned, like I wasn't like walking away from like a full ride or anything.
Got it. Okay, cool. Well, no, I mean, it was the same thing with me. Like I went and played at like a little NAI school and I wanted to say that I played college football so bad and
Yeah.
I went there to do it and I ended up realizing that like my high school weight room was better than my college weight room. My high school football field was better than, and it was just like, I was almost like taking a step down from Texas football. But that's a whole nother story. But yeah, man, it's interesting that you decided to kind of go all in. Like, what do you think influenced you? I mean, I'm sure Jason Phillips played a part in it. But was there anybody else? Like, I know Gary Vaynerchuk for me was a huge, like kind of entrepreneurial like influence. But what made you decide to go like all in on like, realizing that, hey, I'm 19 years old, I can start building my online business now?
I think it really started like I said, I got certified like through PN, like through the summer I was working with clients and stuff, but at that point it's still more like a side thing. I was like, oh, this is fun. Like, let me just do this, maybe make a little bit of money, and just help people out. I think where the turning point really happened was at the NCI cert when I like went in person. But like my flight actually got canceled. Like I woke up at 5:30 in the morning to like go to the airport and stuff. I look at my phone, the flight had been canceled and I thought I wasn't going to be able to make it out there. Luckily I was able to get on a flight later in the day and make it for the end of the first day and the full second day. And I'm really glad that I did because that was probably like the beginning of when I was like, oh, like I actually want to like do this. Like I actually want to go all in on it. So like, Jason was probably the person that like prompted me like in that direction. And then like really just when it got to a point where I was at basketball practice, like waiting to go back to my dorm and work on content and like write blogs and work on like client prescriptions and stuff like that. That's when I kind of knew I was like, okay, like I know what I want to do. Now I just actually got to bite the bullet and do it. So yeah.
That's cool, man. Yeah, I mean, I think when, you find something that you're passionate about, your calling or whatever you want to say, like, I mean, as soon as you find that, like, and obviously you're lucky, you're 19 years old or even younger than that and found that at such a young age. And that was me too. I was like, I'm so lucky that I found like what I was passionate about at 18 years old. Like most people, definitely not at 18, maybe not never. So that's really cool, man. So what do you think, like, was there something I mean, obviously anybody that knows Jason Phillips, like, his certs are, he brings it, right? He brings the heat, he brings
Yes,
the fire.
sir.
But was there, I mean, thinking back on it, reflecting, was there something that, like, was there like a phrase? Was there like a sentence he said? Like, what was it, just like the whole entire, like, what made you realize it? Was it that you thought that you couldn't start your business now because you weren't an RD?
Like, that was a little bit part of it. I think it was just like the energy he brought like throughout the whole weekend. It was like, holy shit, like this is sick. And that kind of prompted me to just like, it kind of gave me like short term like motivation to like just get started and like to really like go all in. And then from there, like to start building like the habits and the systems to like keep it going. But I think that like the NCI event was really just like that like short term, like it got me going in that direction. And then I kind of just started going from there and just building from there. I don't think there was any like specific like quote that he dropped. He's full of like sorts of like quotes and stuff like that. But I don't think there was any like specific like quote or anything that he like said specifically. But just like the whole experience of the weekend just kind of got me motivated to get going in that direction.
Yeah, that's cool, man. Yeah, I mean, I told Jason, I was like, I stalked you on Instagram for like 2 years before we actually started, like, or before I ever even actually like reached out to him. And he threw out something on like one of his stories one time. He's like, first person or first 5 people to DM me, I'm gonna hop on like a free 30-minute call with them. And so I like DM'd him, I got on that, and he answered the phone. He's like, what can I do for you? And I was like, nothing, man. I want to work for you. And then anybody that knows the story kind of knows where it went from there. But
Yeah.
yeah, man, that's really cool, and it resonates with me. I mean, I basically saw a potential mentor from afar and followed him for 2 years just to make sure that he was what I wanted, what I was looking for. And it's obviously been a great process working with him since. So, but dude, let's dive into kind of really, well, two-part. I want to dive into a little bit of nutrition, but I also want to dive into like just your time like working with clients at such a young age, because I know for me, like, it made me really kind of like grow up fast. Like, it was personal training before, so I was like waking up at 4 a.m. or 5 a.m. And then obviously working with clients that are successful enough to like to afford to pay personal training prices. Like,
Yeah.
like I just, they really helped me with like kind of growing up at a young age. So how have your clients kind of helped shape you and kind of made you, I don't know, kind of, grow up a little bit faster than most kids out there?
Man, I think the first thing is just like when I first got into nutrition coaching, I thought it was just going to be like, oh, let me like switch their macros and like give them calories and like that'll be it, and like that'll get them the results they want. But really just learning how to connect with someone on a deeper level, because like it's so much deeper than just calories, just macros. It's like if someone's struggling to hit their like prescription, why are they struggling? Like what's leading them to do that? Like why are they not like fully committing to themselves and like to that process of getting better and achieving the results they want? Because everyone can. There's just like some roadblock in their way. And coaching at this young of an age has been able to like teach me how to connect with someone on that level and to be able to get the best out of them and to be able to get the best out of myself too.
Yeah. Growing up, were you like, would you consider yourself more like introverted or extroverted?
Oh, 100% more introverted. Like right now, I'm probably like the most like extroverted introvert ever. Like, cause on Instagram and like on podcasts, you got to be a little bit extroverted. But like, if it was up to me, I'd be introverted all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. Me too. Me too. Um, do you think that you could connect with your clients on as deep as a level as you do if you had to do it in person versus remotely?
That's a good question. I never really thought about that. I guess, I mean, in person's always a little bit more like intimate, but remotely, if you're on a call, and especially if you're doing video chat, I think it's just as effective. Um, like I give my clients the option to do like video chat if they want. Some people just don't want to for whatever reason, but I mean, I think that's also a great option as far as like just building that connection as best as you can without being face to face.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, I agree. And I think what's interesting, one thing I've noticed, I mean, I was in person for 8 years, and then I've been, online, you know, exclusively for the last now basically 2 years. And I think one thing that I've realized is like starting out with like new clients, just kind of that barrier of like, everybody's kind of like a little reserved when you first start. Most people aren't just like super outgoing. And
Yeah.
so I feel like working with people remotely, whether it's through a phone consult or through a Zoom call, I just feel like people actually open up a lot faster than they do in person. So I don't know if you found that as well, but
I've never really noticed that. I mean, I didn't work with people in person for
oh
that
yeah,
long.
that's right. That's right.
Maybe only like 2 or 3 months, just while I was home for the summer. Because as soon as I went back to school, then it all kind of shifted remote. So I didn't have that much experience with nutrition coaching in person. So I couldn't really say too much on that. But that's interesting that you pointed that out. I would think it would be the opposite.
Yeah, I don't know. I just think that like what I saw with personal training is just, when people are meeting each other in person and who knows, maybe it was just me, right? But like, I think like a lot of people, they're just a little bit more shy, a little more reserved in the front end. And like, it would actually take longer to get them to open up and
Yeah.
connect in person than it did online. And I think it also, when you're sitting around with like 5 or 6 tables with other personal trainers and other clients, like they're not going to just sit there and like, start crying across the table from you. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
yeah, just an interesting
Yeah,
point.
I think another reason might be just because like if you're remote, like before the person has started to work with you, they're probably following your content, they're listening to your podcast, they're like they kind of already know you a little bit. At least if you're doing your job correctly, like putting out content, they should already know you, at least a little bit. So that might make it easier for them to open up like online rather than in person if you're just scheduling an appointment with like some nutrition coach that you found or your friend referred you to, like you don't know this person yet. So
Yeah.
that could be a thing.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's definitely a good point for sure. So nutrition, the clients that you're working with, like what type of clients do you typically work with? Like, obviously you're a college student. So do you work with a lot of people that are like, around your same age, or do you find yourself working with other people? Like, what does that kind of, dynamic look like?
It's kind of all over the place. So like I have some college kids that I'm working with. I have some guys in their 40s. I have some moms in their 30s and 40s. Like it's all over the place. Just I mean, especially being so early on, like just trying to help as many people from as like many different backgrounds as I can to really get clear on like who that like ideal client that I want to like really hone in on is. Um, but yeah, right now it's kind of all over the place, and I really enjoy it because it gives me a lot of different like experiences and like because everyone's so different. And if you like try to focus in, I know like everyone talks about like who's their ideal client like nowadays, and like that's super helpful. But like for someone in my position, like I shouldn't really be focusing on that too much right now because like I need to get that experience working with multiple different types of people before I can really come to that conclusion for myself.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and I mean, you're completely right. I think some people try to niche down way too fast before they've actually, put in reps and like, tried out different things. So yeah, man, I mean, I think you're definitely on the right path with that for sure. So what are some of like the biggest struggles or biggest problems that you're running into with the clients that you're working with these days?
I think the biggest issue usually is that they're under eating. Like regardless of if they're trying to gain muscle, if they're trying to lose fat, or if they're trying to perform, like a lot of people are under eating. And it's pretty surprising, especially for the fat loss cases, because like they think they need to eat less to lose weight. Um, but even they tend to be under eating a bit. So what usually happens, we pretty much always have to reverse diet them to some extent, unless someone comes to me like is in a position where they're ready to go into a calorie deficit. If their goal is to lose fat, but a lot of times people will come to me under eating. And I think the biggest challenge is just building that awareness and getting them to understand that going up in calories is going to set them up for that fat loss success in the long term, because everyone wants to like, they think they need to go into a calorie deficit and eat less. But when they're hired, especially when they're hiring you to lose fat and you're telling them to eat more, it's like, dude, what the hell is going on? Like, I thought I need to eat less to lose weight. So just kind of getting that across to them. But I mean, that just comes down to education. And like, I just try to explain to them as clearly as possible, like why we're doing what we're doing. But yeah, I would say that a lot of people tend to be under eating.
Do you feel like people, because you hear it a lot, and I would agree there are a lot of people that are under eating, but do you feel like there's also a lot of people that are maybe like underreporting, if you will?
Oh
Like
yeah.
I find that most of the time when people report back with like a really, really low calorie number and they've said they've been doing that for a really long time, like they actually maybe just forgot to put in like olive oil like 3 times that day and that was like 600 calories. You know what I mean? Like, so do you find that a lot of people just actually don't know how to like weigh their food, log their food, and things like that?
Yeah, that's definitely something else that we have to tackle as well. Like that's one of the first things we want to take care of, just making sure they're logging everything correctly. Because like you said, like if you're not logging like olive oil or stuff like that, that adds up real quick. So like just making sure that they're logging correctly. Um, I haven't seen a ton like in the clients that I've been working with that they've been like drastically underreporting. Um, Maybe they like missed like a tablespoon or two here and there, but it's not like this like drastic like discrepancy between like what they say they're eating and what they're actually eating. So usually I still find that they're under eating quite a bit. But I could definitely see how that could be a challenge though.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and this is, if I have, 200-pound Sally who's like, I'm eating 1,000 calories a day and I've been doing
Yeah,
this for
yeah,
3 months and I'm not losing weight. I'm like, Sally, like, I'm sorry. There's just no way, like,
yeah, no,
um, but yeah, I find a lot of people like, and even, let's say it's even like us and like we sit here and we log it like 100% accurate. It's like, we're still going to be off, in a
you're not.
sense.
You never are.
Yeah. Yeah. So, like, I just tell people, I'm like, look, it's MyFitnessPal is a tool, right? Like use it as a tool and understand that it's not 100% accurate. But for God's sake, do not use it as a coach. Like, do not let MyFitnessPal coach you through nutrition. Like, you will be in a bad place at the end. I promise you.
Yeah, I think the one thing that gets me is when people are like when we develop a plan and then they come back to me like a couple days later, it's like, and then they're eating the calorie amount that MyFitnessPal spit out to them because it says that on the app. I'm like, no, just disregard that number. You can essentially just ignore that number. Just pay attention to what we talked about. But I mean,
Yeah.
it's pretty funny.
Yeah, I mean, one thing we'll have like when we do like an initial assessment, like we'll have them log on MyFitnessPal, but we'll also like have them take pictures of everything they eat and drink and like text it to us on the spot so we can like see the picture and see what they log. And then also we
Okay.
tell them, we're like, hey, make sure you actually weigh your food as well. And
Yeah.
look, I'm not having you do this for the rest of your life, but like we need to get as thorough as an assessment as we possibly can.
Yeah, totally. Like definitely, like you said, it's not something that you want to be doing for the rest of your life. I mean, at least most people. Like some people, like honestly, I could see myself doing it for the rest of my life just because I enjoy it. I'm kind of a nerd about this stuff. So I kind of like having the numbers to play with. But like for the vast majority of people, like it shouldn't be like a lifelong solution. Like you said, it's a tool.
Right. Yeah. So how much of this, I always joke, like, I'm like, it's funny that I even like call myself a nutrition coach sometimes because, like most people come to us for nutrition coaching. They're thinking like macros, they're thinking meal plan. And really what they get is like this process of like kind of developing like, their mindset along the way. So how much of this equation, with nutrition coaching comes down to mindset for you?
I think at first you have to build like those easy wins and like build trust through like the nutrition coaching, and then you can dive a little bit deeper into the mindset. But the mindset is super, super important. Like if your mindset's not there, you're not going to see the long-term success. Because I
Right.
mean, like one, just from like a confidence standpoint that you can, like most people like are telling themselves like whatever form that they like for some reason can't do it. Like whether it's I'm too busy or like nothing has ever worked for me or whatever it is, like they're telling themselves for whatever reason they can't do it. And that's one of the obstacles that like we have to break through. I think the one that I get the most often is like I'm too busy, and just kind of getting around that mental block, and just getting them to understand that like everyone has the time to do it. It's just about getting through that mental block. But as far as like how much of it is like mindset, at least 50%. Like if your mindset's not there, like you're not going to see the long-term success, because you can go into a calorie deficit for a couple of weeks and lose a couple of pounds, but like if you're not developing the mindset, like why you want that, and like how you're actually going to be able to keep that off in the long term, like you're not going to see long term success. So mindset is definitely huge.
Yeah, absolutely. So one question that just came to mind to me, and I'm interested to see like where you're at with this, but knowing that you grew up like kind of overweight and you kind of had these issues with like body image and things like that, was like, since you've transitioned and you've kind of changed your body composition and you've kind of fell in love with nutrition and all of these things, like, were you like, was your family, like immediate or extended family, like do any of them like struggle with being overweight, or was this something that like do you think that affected you at all growing up, or were like?
I don't think so. My mom and my dad are actually really healthy. Like, and I think that's what kind of enabled me to like go through that and like really like see it through and stick to it in the long term, because like they were both super supportive. So I think it actually helped me. I can't, I don't know. I think just having access, I think the biggest thing was just having access to those types of foods like in the house and just having them around as like snacks and stuff. I think that was the like just the like the environment as far as food was concerned. Like if they weren't in the house, probably wouldn't have been as big of an issue. But I think that would be the biggest player in like what like led to that. But as far as like my family, like they're super supportive and they actually like eat pretty healthy themselves. So I think that's what ultimately like helped me get past that challenge and through it and keep that weight off long term.
Got it. Got it. Yeah, I was just curious because, like, for me, like growing up, it's obviously not my parents' fault. They did the best they could at that time, and I'm sure nutrition like wasn't where it was then, where it is now. But like,
Yeah.
there was one year that I got sick like 12 or like 13 times in one year, like strep throat, like 12 or 13 times in one year. Like I would get the flu all the time, but I ate like frozen meals, like I ate fast food all the time. Like I just ate like
Yeah.
crap. My senior year, I was going to like bulk up for college football, and it was like, hey, I'm gonna eat 5 chicken burritos from Taco Bell every day.
Oh my God.
And yeah, and I was like spending like $300 at like the supplement shop every month, like on all this like crap, and like I gained weight,
Yeah.
but it's just like, wow. Like I think about the evolution from back then to now, and we all are on our own journey, and that's why it's like we just have to have empathy for those who maybe don't trust the process because maybe they have been screwed over multiple times. I was just talking to a client before this that lost 50 pounds some like trainer or something put him on this like crazy, ridiculous diet. He lost like 50 pounds in like 10 weeks, I think it was.
Oh my God.
And then they don't know exactly like how everything happened. They're basically blaming it on the rapid weight loss, but he then had to get his gallbladder removed after he like went to the emergency room. And so it was just like crazy. It's like, man, like, dude, people out there are really like hurting people with these, I don't even know what to call them, like, but
Yeah.
so yeah, man, it's an interesting world, this nutrition world. I think there definitely needs to be some more regulation on it for sure.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, there's got to be like coming in the future, especially since it's growing so quickly. And like that's one of the reasons like why I want to get my RD, like just so like if there is regulation at some point, like that I'm prepared for that.
Yeah.
That's really my main motivation to get my RD, and I guess from a quote unquote like credibility standpoint, just to get in the door at some places. But really, like I feel like I've like just from like certifications and like doing my own research, I feel like I've developed a really solid knowledge base of nutrition. So like, yeah.
I'll be interested to ask you after you graduate if you feel like you learned more from school or more on your own through your certifications and own studying, own research.
Yeah, I think like I don't know. I mean, it's hard to say so early on. I mean, just
Yeah.
in the intro to nutrition
It's too
class,
early now, but I'll ask you here in like 4 or 5 years or whatever.
yeah, for sure. Now that intro class is it's it's gonna be a fun time. We're spending like a whole like 3 weeks on what is protein? How much protein do you need? I'm just sitting there like, oh my God.
Well, dude, and I mean, to be honest, like my biggest struggle, because I was kind of like you and I started in the field, like at the same time I started like going to traditional like college, I I had so many arguments with teachers and students. Like I really, really struggled because I mean, there were so many things that were just so outdated and that were just like,
Yeah.
and yeah, I mean, everybody's experience is different, and I think depending upon what school you're at, like I definitely think it makes a difference. But um, yeah, I definitely
I think for me, I'm just gonna sit there and like
just
I don't
take
know.
it.
I might, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
I might start something once in a while just to see. But yeah, I think the biggest thing for me so far that I've seen that I'm just like, what the hell is like the 0.8 grams per kilogram of protein? Like, dude, what person needs like that little protein? Like,
Oh, just wait. You're gonna hear so many different things, but I would say, yeah, don't stress it. I would just sit back and take it
yeah,
because really what happens is like you're never gonna win. Like you have a
exactly.
classroom of students that are looking at you like you're an ass because you're like fronting the teacher essentially. But uh, yeah, God, I just think back and I was like, sometimes, man, sometimes I had to really hold myself. But um, dude, so what are you most excited about as you kind of continue through school and then head into dietetics? I mean, are you wanting like obviously you have your business going now, so I'm assuming you're not wanting to go and get like work in like a clinical setting, or are you wanting to do that? Like what's kind of the future looking like for you?
Ideally, I don't in clinical setting, like can while I'm still in school, and then kind of keep it going when I'm done. If I do need to get like a job, like just to like for whatever reason, if it doesn't grow as planned, then I would probably want to go into like this sports dietetics route for a little bit. It's like working for a sports team or something. That's like what I originally wanted to do um, before I started my own business. So like if I had to, I would probably go down that route. But ideally, I do want to just keep growing the business and keep that going, kind of make like as seamless a transition as possible from like being in school to just running it full time.
Yeah. No, I think that's smart. I mean, that's exactly what I did. Obviously, I made the transition from like in person to online as well. But I mean, I think back and I'm like, if I wouldn't have done what I did through school, like if I only would have gone to school and wouldn't have tried to like work and like build up like a reputation, a brand, all that, then I would have graduated and I would have gone and started making like 30 or $40,000 a
Yeah.
year. And here I am with like $60,000 in debt, and like that would have been the reality. So for me, like, and who knows if the regulation does come and like I have to go back to do to pursue an RD, then I will, but until that happens I'm probably not.
Yeah, I don't
I,
blame you.
I had like at the time, and the only reason why is because at the time I was literally like I was doing personal training and like making like really, really good money personal training. And so as you
Yeah.
know, like I was gonna have to go and do like basically like a 1 year unpaid internship. So I
Yeah.
would have lost all those clients. I would have lost, it was just and I was married at the time too. So I was like, I just can't do it. But
Yeah, no, I don't blame you. That internship is crazy. It's like 1,200 hours or something.
yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. So hopefully I don't have to go back at some point. That would suck. But anyways, well, dude, so what are you kind of like most, interested in right now, like with nutrition? I mean, there's a lot of different like sexy topics out there, if you will, but like what are you kind of consuming right now? Like what are you studying? Like, is there anything that's like, I don't know, just kind of like one of the main topics that you're into right now or what?
I'm just kind of all over the place. I kind of just try to take in as much information as possible. I would say what I'm most interested in now is just like taking all like the complex stuff and just breaking it down as simple as possible for like the people that are following my Instagram, for my clients, stuff like that. Because it's super easy to get caught up in, like you said, all the fancy stuff like intermittent fasting, keto, paleo, whatever it is. Like people get way too caught up in all that stuff instead of just realizing that it doesn't need to be that complicated. And like even those complex things can be broken down pretty simply. I think like one that a lot of people like overcomplicate is like hormones. Like everyone wants to look to like hormones. And like what to do to like raise testosterone and like whatever. But like in reality, if you're eating a high quality diet and you're eating enough food, your resistance training a couple sleeping. I say that's what like I'm most like interested in doing like right now.
Nice. Yeah, man. I think that it'll be interesting to see as you go through school and as you go through studies. And I mean, I just remember like when I first started, like who I was kind of into. I used to go to all the, I don't even know if you know who this is, but I used to go to all like Perform Better like seminars and like, do you know who Perform Better is? Have you ever heard of that?
It rings a bell. I don't remember off the top of my head though.
So that was like, it was like the big like personal trainer like summit, if you will. And so they would have like all the biggest people in the field like speaking. And so that's what I like grew up going to. And I mean, my first year doing personal training, I spent like $10,000 on like certifications and like personal or like, you know, further in education. So I fell into it and fell in love with it. And precision nutrition, same thing. Like that was one of the first that I got into. But you know, even now it's just interesting as we like evolve, as we like find new people that maybe we never even heard of before. And it's like, how did I not hear of this person before? Like, you know, like Jason, it's like, I didn't hear of that.
Yeah, exactly.
Ever. So that's cool, man. Well, it's cool to see your passion and it's cool to see just, you know, where you're trying to take everything. So, dude, I appreciate you hopping on the podcast, man. I'm interested to see just kind of the future for you. One last question for you. What would be your biggest advice for somebody that's even younger than you that maybe like just started high school or maybe they just started college in terms of like wanting to get more into this health and fitness space?
Just get started. Like 6 months ago, I guess I was coaching 6 months ago, but like I still like wasn't like all that into it, and like not all that into it, but like as far as like building my business and stuff like that. But as far as like health and fitness, like just get started, do something, anything. Like if you like for me, like when I did paleo, like was that the best thing I could have done? No, but I'm glad I did it because it got me started and it got me like interested in learning about it. So I would just say to get started and take action, do something. Like stop like planning what you're gonna do and just like go and actually do it.
Yeah.
Because if you do that day after day, like a few months go by and you'll be amazed at like how far you've come.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, man. It's really easy to get paralyzed, right? To get
100%.
handcuffed, you know, and to get just caught up in thoughts and dreams and hope and never take action. So it's cool to see you realize these things at such a young age, my man. It's awesome. A lot of people don't. You know, they don't realize this, especially at that age and maybe not till way later in life. So keep doing what you're doing. But dude, where can everybody find you at? Where are you on social media? I know obviously you have a podcast, website, all that. Where can everybody find you?
Yeah, so on Instagram, you can find me at T Clark Nutrition. Shoot me a DM on there. That's probably where I'm most accessible. I do post on Facebook once in a while, but honestly not as much. So I just go to my Instagram at T Clark Nutrition. I post on there every single day. I think I've only missed one day since I started posting. It's pretty recently. I was pretty bummed about that, but pretty much posting every single day. And then like you said, I have a podcast, the T Clark Nutrition Podcast, posting 2 episodes a week. So yeah, if you want to find me, just head over to my Instagram and you can find my podcast there as well. And I'm just focusing on putting out as much content as I possibly can.
Awesome. Well, dude, Tommy, thank you so much, man. I appreciate you and I appreciate you taking the time.
Thanks, man. Thanks for having me on.